Oh, hey, it's Eric. Funny seeing you here. See, so this is kind of a weird video. Basically, if you don't know, Aquila and Darkmoor are a series of like 3 dungeons in each part, I think, actually. I think they're both 3. They're kind of their own worlds because they kind of have their own storyline going on, but you definitely do want to do them because they have some of the best gear drops in the game, and they're also pretty fun to do.
Okay.
So I figured because they're 2 shorter things, I'll combine them and just put them into one world in review video. I actually don't know if that's how you pronounce it.
Is brought to you by pronouncenames.com.
Thanks, pronouncenames.com.
Aquila.
Yeah, so Aquila. So I know you unlock the first dungeon at level 30, and I know you get access to Hades at 90. There's a second dungeon in between those though, which I think might be 60. It's kind of like a lesser known one, and that's just because the level 30 gear and the level 90 gear you can get at Aquila is the best gear for those levels, so people really run those dungeons. But I don't think I've run the second dungeon, which I'm pretty sure is the Poseidon dungeon, in like forever. Should be pretty interesting. It's a very interesting looking guy. I'm gonna solo this first Zeus dungeon just because I am level 100, so it should be pretty late.
Stand before the radiant sun lord Apollo bright one.
No, it's a Pollo. Oh my god, I never picked up on that. That's hilarious. Because he's a chicken, so it's like Apollo, but Pollo. Yeah, okay. So like, I know a lot of people farm this dungeon as soon as they hit level 30. I never bother to. That's pretty much just because it's pretty pointless. Like, yeah, it's the best gear for the level you're at, but like, you're only going to use it for 30 levels. It's also just like not that much better than like Bazaar gear. And the game is really easy at that point. Like, you don't need to focus on getting the best stats. And it's really, once you factor in the time it'll take you to farm for the gear, you probably break even on the amount of time it takes. So it's actually part of the dungeon that you get this drop, which is the Skyrim Austin. That's kind of the reason I recommend you do it. And that's really the only reason I recommend doing this dungeon, honestly. It's super accessible, and it's one of the best free-to-play wands all the way up to level 100. Like, see, I still use it on my level 100 myth. The 10 base damage is just hard to compete. Like, there's no Bazaar wand or anything you're gonna get that's gonna be able to compete with that. Like, I'm sure there's better pack wands, but for how easy this is, it's a guaranteed drop. Like, nothing to see here, just a 12-year-old killing an actual fucking god. It's like Pokemon. Oh, I got the robe. It's definitely good, but it's just not as good as Waterworks, and I don't know. I mean, if you get a drop, you get a drop. Now it's time for the second dungeon, which is the Poseidon dungeon. Now, apparently there is actually level 70 gear that drops from this dungeon. I've really never heard of anyone farming for it. Oh shit, I got the robe? Is this better than Waterworks? I mean, it's definitely better for like questing. Literally only buy 3 pierce and like 20 crit. Which is just, and you get pip chance, which is kind of nice, but like, is it worth doing that whole dungeon for? I mean, maybe, but I also got really lucky and got it dropped on the first time, and you could run that dungeon a whole bunch and not get it. So I think if you've already run Waterworks, there's not much of a reason to run that, to be completely honest. But
Coward, weakling, malcontent.
oh my god, that thing is annoying. Right, so a lot more people run Hades. The gear is considerably better than Waterworks gear. And for a lot of people, they really like that gear upgrade when they go into Chrysalis, because Chrysalis is a pretty difficult world. Personally, I've never farmed this dungeon exclusively for gear. So one of the really annoying things about this dungeon is that people actually, a lot of them won't do the full thing. They'll just go up here and farm Chronos. I honestly don't know if that's still like the most popular place to farm for Amber, but for a while it was. This dungeon is super fucking sick though. Oh my god. Mini tartar, mini tartar, mini tartar, mini tartar. Man, I absolutely used to love Tobuscus. I wonder what he's up to nowadays. That was a grave mistake. This has actually been like an hour-long dungeon because we don't have any maxes with us, which is kind of nutty. These spells are so cool. I'm surprised they haven't done like a more convenient way to interpret these into like us being able to use them. And it's over. 3 pretty cool dungeons with 3 really good sets of gear. So now we're heading straight onto Darkmoor. What have you got for me today, Mortis?
Because the greatest of shadows has landed there. The exalted Lord of Death, Malistair the Undying. He has issued a challenge throughout the spiral, rippling through the void between the worlds. He challenges you.
By doing so, he has created an impenetrable ward around his domain, blocking Ambrose, myself, and all the professors from interfering.
Isn't that really convenient? Oh no, I really would help you if I could. It's just Ivan's just been not feeling too good lately. There also are 3 Darkmoor dungeons, but like they're linear, and only the last dungeon gives like the good loot drops. Now I swear this dungeon has been nerfed like an endless amount of times. It still is kind of difficult, and if you don't know what you're doing with some of the cheats, it can be a challenge, but it's definitely doable, especially now with like merciless gear and the max level being 150. It's not as hard as it used to be, but it still can be a pretty decent challenge. So there's 3 tiers of gear in this dungeon. I'm pretty sure you can get the low tier gear drops from pretty much any boss in any of the couple dungeons, and even like the lowest tier gear is still pretty good. It's probably all better than Waterworks gear still, but you can only get the top gear drops from Alistair the Undying, which is the final boss of the final dungeon, which is the gear everyone's farming for, really. The other good thing about running Darkmoor is it's the best place to get gold skeleton keys still. They're still really good today, but like before they did like a lot of the spell reworkings, they used to be the most broken spells. All right, I'd just like to really delve into the point I just made, just to go over just how broken these Darkmoor spells were for the longest time. Storm had a 5-pip AoE that did 1200 damage and removed every single blade from the enemy team. I mean, Prime Glowbug Squall was just a different fucking animal.
Are you a different animal and the same beast?
What the f does that mean, Kobe Bryant?
The original FFA was definitely pretty strong. The +3 25% traps was pretty good. The high-end damage was pretty insane, but compared to some of the other school spells on this list, this wasn't like, I don't think this is like that outrageous. Abominable Weaver was fucking toxic. Probably single-handedly made me quit PvP. Hungry Caterpillar and Mystic Colossus were like pretty good spells. They were definitely still broken and unbalanced, but compared to Stormfire and Death, they didn't seem that broken. Like, they weren't game wreckers. But this spell, oh my god. This spell, and they nerfed this spell before they nerfed all the other spells because it was just fucking stupid. This is far and away the best PvE spell that has ever been released in this game.
You're as beautiful as the day I lost you.
And then Gaze of Fate was just fucking terrible. But anyways, that concludes my history lesson. There we go. So this is the final dungeon of Darkmoor. This is where you get the really good gear. The first boss in here is you have Genvi. He does some weird shield cheats, but if you carry Shatter and, you know, Faint, Blade, he's actually trivially easy. This Shane Von Shane fight is really annoying, especially when one of your teammates is only trying to get the Athame and he leaves before, but...
So it comes to this. You shaking in your 2 large robes, a flimsy wand trembling in your grasp, the scent of fierce sweat in the air, and me, exultant in my mastery of magic. In a small way, I should thank you. If you had not sent me spinning off into the void, had not destroyed Morgan, I might not have been able to achieve this. Once you are but a memory and a pinch of dust upon the wind, I will have the power to restore my Sylvia to her vibrant form. Then we can live out our lives as we planned, quietly and in peace. And Shadow take any who get in our way. I challenged you under the ancient law of Kandavasi. It is just between us now, wizard. Prepare your spells and face my cold fury.
You have to let it all go. You have to surrender your anger and your fear and find peace in the spiral. Can you do this for yourself, for me, for us all? Or else every good thing, including your love for me, will have been for naught.
Surrender! I will do this for you, my love. And for my brother. And even for you, wizard. Even for you. Take what you have learned here this day and spread good and mercy through the spiral. We will not meet again.
Come, Alistair. Walk with me to the other side.
All right, now moving on to the rankings. We're gonna start off with Aquila. I like Aquila. It's just like, I always thought the story was kind of weird. Like the concept of the Immortal games is kind of cool, but it doesn't really fit into like the world of Wiz very well. It just feels kind of weird that you go and fight like actual gods and other animals, but it's like, how does that, I don't know. Not the best story, not the worst story. The dungeons are whatever. I mean, if you're only gonna run them once or twice, they're pretty fun, but like as far as like boss uniqueness and replayability goes, there's really not a whole lot here. It's also like the gear sets you can get, like while they're the best gear for those levels, they're not like necessary upgrades. Like I'd call Waterworks and Darkmoor necessary upgrades. You don't really need to even ever farm Aquila. There's really not much to love and not much to hate, so I think it's the top of C tier to me. It's just it's a very middle of the road area and world. Now Darkmoor for some reason isn't on here. I guess it's not considered a world technically, which is kind of weird because if you're considering Aquila and the 4 dungeons, I don't know. But anyways, I love Darkmoor's story. It has the same thing going on with Aquila where it's like this epic challenge posed by like this ultra strong figure, but like the rules of Conde Vazi actually fit the world of Wiz way better. It's not like god stuff. Like it doesn't seem as out of place in my opinion. I felt like bringing back Malister in the first place in Azteca just destroyed his character. It took him from someone who you could relate to on like a human level. Such a surprisingly deep character in a children's card game in Azteca was just turned into like the stereotypical like bloodlust, hates the main character, just wants whatever. But Darkmoor really redeems his character. It's actually done so well, and there's so many little nuances to it. I'm actually wondering like where this storytelling was in the second arc. The way he's written, like yeah, he hates the wizard, but he almost has respect for the wizard. He's come to accept the fact that he's evil and he's willing to destroy everything for what he wants. He's not ever delusional, which it's just, there's just something about that character, man. The last dungeon has a ton of replayability, and I know you may disagree with me or hate it, but that's probably because you've run it 25 times like me. For right now, the Tale of 4 Dungeons is going to take the place of Darkmoor on this tier list, and I honestly would put it at the top of A. Might be super unpopular, but I absolutely love that dungeon. As always, if you enjoyed, please consider leaving a like if you want to see more videos. Subscribe, check all the links in the description. Make sure to follow me on Twitch, Twitter, join my Discord. Outside of that, I hope you just have a good day, and maybe I'll see you around sometime.